edition of Tribulation Ready Survival. I'm Michael, and today we're going to talk about emergency communications, or communications if you're a prepper. Take your pick. So, here's what I have in my possession. This is a basic entry-level Baofeng UV5R 8-watt radio. This is a VHF and a high frequency, so ultra high frequency and high frequency radio that operates in the FM or frequency modulation mode. So FM radios, think of that. You can pick up anything on those spectrums, but you can't pick anything up on AM, which would include things like aircraft and a few other things. So anyways, this UV5R is very handy. It covers a lot of ground. It will get, with this antenna, 3 to 6 miles line of sight. So if you have obstructions like buildings, it's going to be a lot shorter. However, it does have a range of frequencies that it covers, and we'll talk about that here in a second. We'll get into all the specifics that I think about the radio. But let's talk about a couple of things. Number one, for me, when it comes to emergency communications, if I have to get a call out, I am not going to depend on my cell phone. Ask anyone who has been in an emergency situation, including hurricanes, tornadoes, major incidents. Cell phones, everybody's going to be on their cell phones, sending pictures, text messages, trying to call grandma and her uncle and the lady who does her fingernails. You know, they're going to call everybody. And it clogs up the system. The cell phone towers are not capable of handling that much traffic. So what you may be left with is something like this. And if you have somebody on the other end that you can get a message to get emergency help or whatever, this may be an option for you. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pros. This thing's cheap. This thing will cost you $25-ish, give or take $10. They're easy to find. Most people who are interested in radios have one somewhere. And a lot of people use these. You can connect to a repeater, which is another type of receiving station that can broadcast you even further distances than this radio will actually be able to do by itself. But that's a whole nother story. So that's a pro. Another pro is this thing is light. You get I've had this thing, they say 3 hours. I've gotten over 3 hours of battery life not pressing the talk button. This thing will just go for several hours, and you can sit there and listen, and you can scan, and the overhead lights just went off. But you can scan, you can program in frequencies that you like to hear. It's easy to carry around. Number one, this thing doesn't transmit a whole long way. You're not going to be able to talk to somebody in the next town if they're like 5 miles away, unless you hit a repeater, okay? And you have to have your license. So let's talk about the license real quick. This is a con. When you get your license, your name, your call sign, and your address get put on a publicly accessible website so that people can look up where you're at or where your home base is. And I don't like that part of my privacy being violated. I don't want that information being put out there because I want to use a radio. That's just my choice. You make your own choice. If you want to press the talk button, you have got to do a couple of things. One, you have to pass a test to get your technician's license, the bare minimum. Then you have to register yourself with the FCC to get a call sign, And then once you do that, you pass your test, you get your call sign, and you pay your $35, you get your license, then you can press the talk button. A lot of rigmarole. I'm not interested in doing that. My intent is to listen. I want to hear what's going on around me, and by law, if it's an emergency, someone's going to die, you can press the talk button. But only for that reason. So if you choose not to get your FCC license and you continue to press the talk button, people are able to track this down. This radio is not equipped with a GPS. However, it is very possible and not difficult for a trained radio user with the right equipment to be able to track you down. If you get caught pressing the talk button, there is possibility of a fine of $10,000. Listen, I'm not interested in that. I'm not going to get my license. I'm just going to listen. Another con about this radio is that it will not scan and it will not transmit on a lot of the larger emergency services radios. They've gone to an 800 megahertz, 900 megahertz system, and it's trumped, which means that this radio cannot scan that and it cannot go into that high of a range of frequency. So you're not going to be able to scan most large emergency services, and you're not going to be able to talk to them. So this is not good for that. Here's another thing that I think is a con. Like I said, this doesn't have a GPS unit. People can find you. When I'm in an emergency situation, for example, fleeing from the powers that be, I don't want this. I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to key up on it. I'm not going to do anything. And here's why. Number one, it has a finite battery life. It's going to last 3 to 5 hours without pressing the button. Okay? But after that, I don't have any more batteries. And I'm not interested in getting a solar charger and carrying all this extra stuff just so I can have my electronic devices. When my idea is, when it's time for us to flee, we will have 0, not 1 electronic device, not even a wristwatch. I do not want any electronic devices when it's time to go. That's just that's my idea. That's for you to make your decision on how you want to do it. But this will not go. Out. It's going to be extra stuff that when it's dead, it's just extra weight anyways, and that's what's going to be chucked out. Bye, gone. Now, this is the last thing I'm going to show you about this particular radio that I think is completely worthless. I have no idea why they put this on here. It is the dumbest thing on here. It has a built-in alarm with this little tiny flashlight that's built in, and it does this number. Why? Just why? Another con about this radio is that if you want to manually program in frequencies to this radio, it is very cumbersome. You're going from menu to press a button to another menu to press a button, and you do like 7 or 8 steps just to save frequency on here. And if you want to, you can. It has a port on the side where you can plug in a specific, it's not just a USB port, a specific plug for this radio that has a USB on the other end, and you can program it via a software that you can download to your computer. And you can do a whole lot more stuff as far as programming this radio that way. But manually just punching in buttons and stuff, it's very difficult, and it's really ridiculous. I programmed in 41 different channels in here over the course of like days, and it was just miserable. But I'm not going to buy the cord because the cord actually costs just as much as I paid for the radio. This radio is not electronically shielded. So, in case of a electromagnetic pulse or an EMP from either a nuclear device or even a sun flare, this device may not work. And it may not work as well. If it does work, it may not work as well as it's supposed to. You have to make your own choice. My choice is to listen to this as long as I can, as much as I can, to find out what's going on around me. But in times of having to leave, it's gone. All right. That's my particular take on the emergency communications, in particular the Baofeng UV5R. It serves a purpose. That's it. It's basic. So, with that being said, I would like for you to get social. I know there's somebody out there who's a ham operator who's going to disagree with me. That's all well and good. I'm not going to debate you. I've already made my choice. However, if you want to make a comment down below, hit the subscribe button so you can be notified later on when we start publishing more videos, as well as get a hold of us on Facebook at Tribulation Ready Survival. We will continue our discussion of this video and all the other videos on the Facebook page. I hope you have a good one, and we'll check you out in the next video.